Hi, I'm Phil DeLuna. I'm a scientist and a clean tech innovator, and I'm running for office in Toronto, St. Paul's for the Green Party of Canada. I'm running because I believe we need to bring more diversity to Parliament and more science to politics. Today, I'm going to talk about technology to help us decarbonize Canada, and more specifically, the piece of my platform, green jobs that leave no one behind. I got into politics because I felt we weren't moving fast enough to address the climate crisis. I got into politics because I saw all this amazing technology being developed, and yet, in order to scale it or implement it, there wasn't enough support from the policy side of things or even investment to get it to go. I got into politics because this is the decade that we need to act. And so I'm going to talk about, in my view, what the 5 steps to get to net zero are. Step 1, we need to protect the wetlands, the forests, the old growth that we do have. We need to reduce and we need to reuse. Step 2 is renewables everywhere. We need to move to a 100% renewable electricity grid. Canada is actually relatively renewable today. About 70 to 80% of our electricity comes from non-emission sources, primarily because of hydroelectricity. We have to tackle that last remaining bit and get to a 100% renewable electricity grid so that all the electricity we use is renewable and emissions free. Step 3 is to electrify everything. Everything that we can possibly electrify, from electric vehicles to electric heat pumps to more efficient LED lighting to more efficient everything, we need to do. Once we have those clean and green electrons, we need to put them to work, and the first thing that we can do is to electrify large parts of our economy. The fourth thing we need to do is tackle hard to abate sectors. These are sectors that are difficult or impossible to electrify, like manufacturing, some parts of transportation like jet fuel and air flight, other pieces like cement production and steel and the building of our lived environments. We still need these things for our quality of life. In order to tackle these hard to abate sectors, we need to fundamentally rethink and reinvest in new technologies that can do these same things, but without having to use fossil fuels or without emitting CO2. And lastly, finally, we have to capture carbon from the atmosphere. We got into this mess by taking carbon out from under the earth, extracting its energy value from it, and then allowing its oxidized form, CO2, to enter the atmosphere. Clearly, from a mass energy balance perspective, in order to deal with the emissions that have already been emitted historically, we also need to capture carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and stick it back underground. So I recently had the opportunity to visit Carbon Engineering, which is one of these exciting clean technology startups that is actually capturing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to store it underground or use it to make chemicals and fuel. I visited Carbon Engineering as part of a documentary shoot on the story of carbon, an unauthorized biography. The entire concept of this film was to look at carbon from the start of its life in the Big Bang, throughout history, how it's been used in photosynthesis and is the form and basic matter of all life, all the way to today where carbon is the main source of energy for us, and how we've used and transformed and turned carbon into things to help suit our own quality of life and our own economic growth. Visiting Carbon Engineering was really special for me because I've studied and looked at carbon dioxide capture and conversion for my entire career. These are the types of Canadian innovation that we should be supporting in order to help us transition to a net zero future. For me, green jobs that leave no one behind isn't just a slogan. It's also personal. I grew up in Windsor, Ontario, the automotive capital of Canada. My dad was an auto worker. He worked at the Ford plant until it closed down in 2008, and he lost his job. He's bounced around from factory job to factory job since. I know exactly what it's like to live in a community that is dependent on one industry and what happens when that industry fades away. That exact same thing is happening today. In the oil and gas industry, in heavy emission industries, transportation, in manufacturing, etc. We need to think about the families and the communities that will be impacted by this transition, and we have to do everything we can to diversify our economy now so that there is a clean destination for these people to transition to. And what we need to remember, especially about green jobs, is that the skills that we need to do these green jobs, they exist in today's oil and gas sector. There are so many clean technologies that could revolutionize our world. Hydrogen, which could power our trains and our planes and our freight. Biofoundries, which look just like petrochemical plants, but use engineered microbes to build sustainable materials. Or geothermal, which harnesses the heat from underground to heat our homes in the wintertime. These jobs need pipe fitters, technicians, chemists, engineers, people with a deep expertise in fluid mechanics, and they exist in today's oil and gas sector. We just need to reorient these industries towards more decarbonized technologies. That is the key to green jobs that leave no one behind, is unleashing the power of science and innovation and supporting it fully. We need to stop building pipelines that are only going to be decommissioned in 10 or 20 years. Instead of spending billions of dollars on infrastructure that needs to become irrelevant by 2050, we can spend instead that money on new technologies that will revolutionize our world and allow us to be at the forefront. Canada has a tremendous opportunity to be the leader of the economy of the 21st century, the clean economy. We just have to take it.